Welcome to the F50 Woman Podcast, dedicated to sharing stories from a diverse community of women in order to provoke you into a passionate pursuit of life, build unshakable character, and achieve extraordinary things. Now, here is your host, Julia Jack.
Good morning. This is Julia Jack with F50 Woman here with Siobhan Mattingly-Ceferelli. Siobhan and I have been friends for probably 15 years at least. We go to church together. We are very similar in so many ways, which if you keep listening to F50 Woman, you'll figure that out. But right now, that's too much to share. So we're going to just jump right in. Hello, Siobhan. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah.
So first question, tell us about who you were as a younger woman. What do you want to be when you grew up? Tell us what you were like.
Yeah, sure. So as a younger woman, I always think of myself because I am an adult, what you call an adult child. So I belong to ACA, which is Adult Children of Dysfunctional Families and Alcoholics. And so I do belong to that. And that's basically for anyone that had a really challenging childhood. And or also for people that had, parents that were alcoholics, and it's just dysfunctional. And I'm really minimalizing it and summing it up, but that's basically what it's for. It's amazing and it's awesome. So whenever I think of myself as a younger person, I always think of myself, and I have this picture of myself with the little braids, with the little ribbons. They were in style back then.
Yeah.
That's the picture. Many you said that's what I visualized, this picture of me. And I think I was in kindergarten, because a lot of times with what they call adult children, it takes us a while to kind of grow up. And that's what I always think of myself. And I would say I have that visual of myself well into my 50s, to be honest with you. If someone says, who are you or whatever, that picture just comes to mind. So it really took me a while to kind of grow up. So, but as a younger person, I was very scared. And I never realized that. And that's why I mentioned, preface it with all that information, is because I'm looking at myself as a younger person through these eyes that I have now, where I've done a lot of work on myself. So it's probably not a description you would have gotten maybe 10 years ago. But I was a very scared person, very timid, very insecure, very questioning everything that I was doing, very settling person. Like I would just settle for whatever I could get, for friends, for boyfriends or significant others or anything, employment, cars, things, anything that I could get, I would settle for it, because I really didn't think I had a lot of worth. I really didn't know I had a lot of value. I really thought that I was expendable. I always looked at myself as being unnecessary here in the world. And, everybody else has purpose. And even someone that's maybe incredibly more down and out than I was, I would even see them having more value and worth than myself. And so my childhood, young adulthood, and older adulthood was very challenging. All of it is very challenging. There wasn't a lot of fun, there wasn't a lot of joyful moments. There wasn't a lot of freedom, and contentment. So it just sums up who I was as a young adult and a younger person. That's, I consider, my changing point is probably, maybe like 54. So when I think of my younger self, I think of everything under 54, because really, I didn't really start to mature until that point.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's jump over that transition point, like you just mentioned, and go to who you are now. So past that transition point, tell us about Siobhan now.
Siobhan now is very different. Just so much contentment. I have a lot of joy. I have these moments where I'm driving in the car, and all of a sudden I'll just feel this just sense of peace and just sense of just being there, being present, not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, just there. And it's such a freeing moment. It just reminds me, I work out in the Berkshire, Mass area. So live in Connecticut, work out in the Berkshires. So it's a nice drive, especially when I'm in the back area. And that's what that moment reminds me of. There's a lot of just like fields and sunshine, and there's a lot of like farmhouses, and it's just a very peaceful ride. And whenever I could be anywhere and have one of those moments, and that's kind of the visual that I get because it's just so refreshing. I feel, I've still got a long way to go, but I just feel more empowered. I definitely beginning and maybe more towards the middle of knowing my value, like who I am, the importance of me. And, all that comes from God. You mentioned that we go to church together. I very much consider myself a Christian, someone who loves God, loves Jesus. And that was one of the biggest turning points. I belonged to, the church that we go to. I left for like 8 years. And when I was in my 50s, 2 years ago is when I went back to church. However, my transformation started before that, because that's when I kind of joined the ACA support group. And that's when I just was at rock bottom. I remember my first meeting, I sat there and just bawled. I just started, I don't even know why I shared. I remember sitting there hearing other people's stories, and it was like they were in my mind. I was just like, wait a minute, these are they reading my mind? Did they like, I'd never heard people talk about life that way or feelings that way or anything. And it's just like, I could just relate to everything that they were saying. It was amazing. It was an amazing moment for me, because I really thought at that moment, I was the only one in the world that was just a hot mess, really. And I don't even know why I shared, but I opened my mouth and then I just started crying. And it wasn't a pretty cry, but it was a very cleansing. It was just, and I started going from there forward. And that brought me back to God. And so little by little, I was brought back to that path. And now, my relationship with God is stronger than ever. And I absolutely believe that that's why, every day I'm just evolving and changing and just learning, who I am, my value, my worth, just learning just to rely on Him for all the silly stuff. And the silly stuff is really everything except your relationship with Him. Everything else is the silly stuff. I've gone through depression. So, a lot of times I was just in a fog, and I feel who I am today is just someone that has some sense of clarity and strength. Just grateful for it, grateful for what I have in my life. And I was always looking at somebody else's life,
right.
Grocery store with the 2.5 kids and the husband putting milk in the cart and holding the baby. And I'm like, ooh, how come I don't have that? Or at work, the president of the company that comes in her high heels and driving a Mercedes. How come I don't have that? Well, you know what? What I learned is all of that comes with stuff that I don't know about. That's
right.
in home or in their house, stuff that I don't want. Maybe she has a smoking habit, and maybe, he, who knows, does stuff with, I don't know, strange women on the weekend. I don't know what's going on, but I know I don't want any of it. I don't want any of that stuff that I don't know about. I want me, I like me. I like my kids. I like my house. I like my car, and my envy and jealousy. Those are tough ones for me. My insecurity that I had to work on, my anger, my rage. I don't have a lot of that rage. Those questions, again, you could ask me those 10 years ago and I probably would have had like a 2-minute answer, or now it's kind of,
right. Deeper. Yeah.
Much deeper. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we felt that transition a little bit from who you were to post 54.
Yeah.
And your peace, you mentioned peace, and you mentioned being valued. So was it just you just got up one morning and said, I'm going to church, and sort of like the wind hit you or the sun pounded your face and you just were there? Or so how did that happen? Did something critical happen?
I think so. There's this movie with Denzel Washington. I never could think of the name of the movie, but the line in the movie I absolutely love. He says, there are times in life where something happens and you're never the same from that moment further. And this is the thing I learned about life too. The basic, simple thoughts and sayings and words are what really change you. And so I always keep that in my head. when I went to ACA, that was a pivotal moment for me, that walking into that meeting, and the day I went back to church. And so both times, yes, both times I was at rock bottom both times. So it's like ACA got me back to church. But at that moment, ACA, it wasn't enough. I needed to really dive into my relationship with God. My marriage is very challenging. My relationship, I love my husband to death, but it's very challenging. And so things happened that were very painful that I could do nothing about. And I think that's what really is the changing point, is where you get to a point where you realize that you are powerless. That's step one, you're powerless. And when you're powerless, you have two things that you can do. I used to be a big partier back in the day. I started drinking when I was 11 years old, and it, so in both instances, that was my choice, go back to that life of partying and abusing my body and destructive behavior and all the whole host of destructive behavior that comes with that world, or go to an ACA meeting. So that moment I made the choice to go to the meeting. And so then fast forward, a couple of years, because I think it was like a couple of years later, to that point, I said to myself, here's what you can do. You can either Saturday night go partying, or you can go to church on Sunday morning. And I decided to go to church on Sunday morning. And in both instances, my life changed. So it's, it's the choices. It really is the choices we make. And exactly what that quote from that Denzel Washington movie, and my life was never the same after I walked into that meeting, and my life was never the same when I walked into church again.
And ACA, tell me what that stands for again.
It's Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's really very powerful. It's you go through, you go to the meetings, and then you go through what they call the 12. It's like any 12-step program, like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. And you go through the 12 steps, and it's incredibly powerful. You write a ton, but you write about people that have hurt you, people that you've hurt, things that have happened in your life. You really learn about forgiveness of yourself for what you've done, forgiveness of others. One of the steps, you go out and you make an amends to the people that you have harmed, which is very powerful, because I think I saw myself as a flat out victim, and I didn't realize the rubble that I left behind. And it's strangely sad, but empowering at the same time. So to realize that I'm not a victim, one, and that two, I could make right the wrong that I've done, because you carry that with you. And as you carry that with you, it brings you down, and it's a wound within you. And then every time someone says something that hits that wound, then you're triggered. And when you're triggered, you're a mess, and you react way over the top, and people think, what is wrong with you? Why are you yelling at me? Well, because I'm yelling about 50 years of things that have happened to me. And you basically said, there's no mustard for your sandwich.
Right.
You just learn. You learn a lot. You learn life skills.
Right.
You learn discernment. You learn your value. You learn to value yourself. You build friendships, and you get the support that you need. And really, support groups like that, you learn that you and your higher power, that's your support. You would think that you kind of lean on other people, but really you learn to lean on yourself and God, and whatever you call your higher power.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard gratefulness, value, and accountability. Those were three things that I heard. Maybe we can talk quickly about the value. So how you said you found your value. What does that mean to know your own value?
To me, it's my relationship with God. God, to me, gives me my value. The fact that I was created by him in his image. That's it. That's our value. How can I not have value? The tricky thing with this is that now you have to look at other people, and realize that they have value as well. You have to have that realization. So a lot of times I think that, especially if coming from my world of just, years of abuse, and some of it self-inflicted and some of it outside inflicted, but just years of just all sorts of abuse from early on in childhood. I think that I had to categorize, special, not special. So I was always in the miscellaneous column, but then there were special people and not special people. And so when I started to realize my value, I also had to give other people value. And wait a minute, she also is a child of God. She also has that value. And that's very freeing as well, to get rid of those categories of special people, not special. Because we walk around and people you talk to, and people will, they'll go, oh, well, I would never do that.
Yes. Yes.
And I know this is audio, but I did the pouty lips,
Yeah.
Really, I got to stop saying that, because there before the grace of God go I. I'm a thin line. You drive around and unfortunately, especially during this time, there's a lot of people that are homeless. And, here where I live, sometimes you're driving by the mall or what have you, and there are people with the sign. And when you look at that, it's kind of like, I'm a thin line from that. I'm a thin line from heading to the package store and ending up, in an AA meeting. I'm a thin line from any sense of, less than or unfortunateness. And when I say less than, I don't mean those people are less than. I mean, unfortunately, their circumstances is different than where I'm at right now. It's about God created me, and therefore I have value. I have purpose here because he gave me a reason to be here. And so my value comes from God. And only comes from God. It definitely doesn't come from anything I do or say. I tell my daughter that all the time. I am most proud of her when she opens her eyes in the morning. That's it. You don't have to do anything.
Did you have a mentor? Was there someone who either helped to point you in the direction or helped you through even learning who you were, writing some of those letters you talked about?
Yeah, there's so many people, actually. Through ACA, what's really great is they have what they call fellow travelers or sponsors. I had what they call a fellow traveler. And a fellow traveler is sponsors more kind of like what you're saying. They're kind of more like an ongoing mentor. Whereas a fellow traveler is someone that is probably in the same spot that you're in. They've been in the group a little bit longer, and so they can help you with the steps. And so she sat with me every week for hours, maybe sometimes 2 hours, sometimes an hour, just listening to me. I do the workbook. Again, the workbook, it's an intense amount of writing. And she was amazing. She had additional resources and questions, and she just really helped me out a lot. So she was amazing. And then I would say that, it's going to sound funny, but even people that you see and you watch people and you say, well, you see what they're doing. You're like, well, I don't want to be like that, or you look at yourself, you hear yourself talking. You're like, oh, I don't. So almost you become you're a self mentor and or other people watching other people, either their positives or negatives can become mentoring. To you, most definitely. And then, I got to put you on there, definitely. And definitely the amazing, which I love saying, sisters and brothers in the church. They incredibly inspire me, and just people in general. I have a wonderful woman at my job. It's ironic how when you're God focused, how you can see what I like to call now angels in my life. And so there's a wonderful woman that I used to work with, and I'm still really good friends with her. And we were really good friends and really good work friends, and had really a lot of fun together. And then come to find out, she belonged to ACA. And it made sense why we just got each other.
If you are enjoying the F50 Woman podcast, don't forget to share your positive comments and ratings, and share us on all your favorite social media channels. F50 Woman is a movement created for women, spread by women. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show and your host, Julia Jack.
All through life, I've had angels or mentors. When I was younger in high school, the only reason why I graduated in high school is because I had a wonderful vice principal and a wonderful high school teacher. I was an issue in school, to say the least. But when I went back to school, it was a pivotal moment in my life when I went back to high school and decided to graduate. But those two people really spent a lot of time helping me to become a young lady to become a young woman and to see my value. They were almost like my parents,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about it as an anonymous mentor, how we can be mentors for people and you don't even know it.
Yeah. People are watching,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially our kids. That camera that you have when you go to the Empire State Building and you put the quarter.
Yes.
I don't know what that thing is even called. It's like binoculars of some sort. I wouldn't recommend putting your eyes on that during COVID.
Not now. Yeah.
But hopefully when we get past this, you look through that thing and you should always, see your life like that on the other side of that lens and really look at your life outside of yourself. I think it's important because it's amazing what you will see if you really put your life under that microscope, so to speak, and not just live within your life. Really look at what you did in a situation and evaluate, because that's an important thing to do. And that will definitely give you growth.
Right. Yeah. Look at your life from the line, like you were saying, understanding that you're balancing a line between have and have not. We're not just the victim. Sometimes we are the aggressor.
Very empowering, because when you realize that you create your life, you give yourself back. There's some things that are out of your control. You got to let those go. But the ones that are in your control are you. It's very empowering to know that, I can help that. I can walk away. I can keep my mouth shut. I love keeping my mouth shut. That's a big one for me now. I don't have to say everything, although I talk a lot right now, but I'm talking about the negative stuff. I know people are like, I don't think so. No, I'm talking about the negative stuff. I don't have to say everything.
Right.
I don't have to say every.
Very empowering. You're in control and you can decide.
It's awesome to sit there and go, I don't have to say that.
Yeah. You see this young girl named Siobhan walking down the street and you just can't help because you see that she needs something. What's the one piece of advice you would give her?
Don't let other people define you. Don't give them that, because they will rip you apart. Do not let other people take space in your head.
Those are good ones. Very important.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Continue my journey with God, continuing getting to know his children, just making friends outside of my borders. I love meeting and talking to people that I would never talk to. It's so refreshing. Summing up my career, because I am, at that age now where I only have, I think it's like 12 years of work, loving my family, raising my daughter, working on my marriage. Marriage is work. I don't care what people say. If you love the person, it's work. Sometimes it's good work. Sometimes it's sometimes you need you need a bonus. You need some, you need some better incentive, better health plan. I don't know.
Right.
and stuff like this, giving back. The older we get, the better we get. This outside shell is definitely got its creaks and challenges and needs some WD-40 sometimes on my knees. But what's inside my soul has so much to give. Think of, this is really going to date me, Miss Jane Pittman. And if you're listening to this show, you know who she is, so don't play. If you are,
don't look over your shoulder like, you talking to me?
You are 50, you know who Miss Jane Pittman is. Beautiful Miss Cecily Tyson. She just passed away this year.
Yeah.
Amazing job. But that movie, she was just full of wisdom. I mean, come on. That lady, she had it going on. I want to be Miss Jane Pittman. That's what I want to be. I want to be all kind of wrinkled up, needing some serious oil Olay on my face, my cane, and someone asked me, what should I do?
Yeah.
I got to get that Southern accent, because when you get older, when you have that wisdom, you either have to have an English accent or a Southern accent. Otherwise, it's just
we're going to have to take a course. I wonder if they have a course on that. Yeah.
I got to have, that,
accents for older ladies.
Well,
yeah.
Nonsense.
All right. We're going to have to work on that.
Well, we're going to be sitting on the patio in our chairs, just rocking away, right?
No, we're going to be running. We're going to be running marathons.
Well, at some point, we're going to be sitting in the chair.
No, I'm still in denial of that. I'm not sitting in a chair. I'm going to be doing triathlons. And
we've gone for the walk.
Maybe we sit in the chair.
6:00. I'm sitting in the chair. I'm going to be, sit down with me, sit a spell. We got to come up with those things. Sit a spell.
That's going to be interesting to see what that's like. I have a random question. Why do you feel evil spreads faster than love? Or do you even think that's true?
I do. And I think it's harder to love. And I'll tell you, I know this because, again, I spent years until my son was born. I learned what love was. The minute I looked over at him in that little see-through crib, which is bizarre, plexiglass or whatever, and I saw him.
Right, in the hospital. Yeah.
He's just blinking at me like, what in the world? I swear that's his face. I'm looking at his face this day. I know he was thinking, why? Why her? Why? What's happening?
Oh my goodness,
and
no.
Still saying that, just, but the minute I saw him, I was in love with him. It's harder to love. I've been married 3 times. All 3 of my husbands I respect and appreciate, but my current husband, I have the deepest love for that I've ever had in my life. And it's hard. It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard to love. Even that basic God love, not that God love is basic, but just, that godly love that you love for everybody, love for humanity is challenging. It's hard to love people. It's so much easier to hate. Everyone loves that. You can sit there for hours, just like talking about people and trashing people. And why is she wearing that? And what is he doing? And why did he say that? And I would never do that. When someone hurts you, it's so much easier to trash them. And it's so much more fun, to be honest with you.
Man.
Much more fun to just, right? To just, cuss people out and beat them up.
Yeah, but I wonder, when you watch babies, when you watch little kids, they show videos of 2 little kids running up to each other on the street and hugging and, leaning on each other's shoulder and not really caring whether you're a fat kid or a skinny kid or a brown kid or a white kid.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, did we teach each other that? Or is that just nature? Is that just our nature? As we get older, we start thinking about my this and my that because we get self-focused as our hormones kick in. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out why.
Yeah, definitely not. I think that we definitely teach each other this. We teach ourselves. And when I said, and this is a great transition to exactly what I just said, that it's more fun to be mean. However, like anything, use of alcohol, drugs, sexual promiscuity, anything that's detrimental to your health and to your body.
Yeah.
Wounds. So you carry those wounds. So you yell at someone and it feels good in the moment. But when you walk away, maybe not even when you walk away, because you'll tell the story. Yeah. But a few years go by and you start to have the wounds. I have so many. So you have these wounds that you carry with you. And if you leave them open as wounds, that's where you're hurt. Again, hurt people hurt people. I remember sitting in our house, we had this window seal. You can sit there. And I remember, and I can visualize myself sitting there, with my legs curled up, bawling, just crying and praying to God. And I don't even know how I knew, but it somehow instinctively I knew to pray to God. And I would pray while my family was fighting, basically.
Wow.
And I was distanced from it for many years. I did not get involved in the fighting. And I was almost like I am now, because now I work hard not to get involved in the fighting.
Right.
I spend a lot of time crying and praying. So it's almost like I'm back to that person that I was back then. But at some point, I'm older, so I have the defense mechanisms. But as a child, at some point, you get to a point where you join, Right. Yeah. I dove in and I could rip someone apart in a minute, and I started, fighting and physically, mentally with people, emotionally messing them up, whatever it is. And it's definitely a learned behavior. And you teach yourself. You learn from others, you take in all the toxins and then you produce it within yourself. This racial disparity that's going on in our country, that's a learned behavior. You see it on television, people that were incredibly prejudiced that have turned around and now love all people, probably more than me. It's a learned behavior and you get comfortable. Yeah. Change is hard. Yes. It's a full-time job. Every day I cannot just float through the world because of my childhood, because of my addictions because of the way I was raised. I cannot just wake up and go, today I'm going to, I have to be here, present, aware, or otherwise, again, that thin line of destruction is always there. Prejudice, hate, all of that can be unlearned. Love is about a decision.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision to love. Well, that's what I didn't understand, that love is a decision. Hate is a trigger response.
Right.
Hate.
Yeah,
jealousy,
I like that. Yeah.
Jealousy, envy, anger, all that stuff is our instant response. Love is like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm not going to stay here and argue with my husband. My child is driving me crazy right now. I'm going to walk away and process the day and pray before I go back in there. These are decisions. Forgiveness is a decision.
Yeah.
People think that this is who I am. There's never a moment where this is who you are, because we're ever evolving. 90 years old, you can change. Who cares if I hated all my life? I know you. I've seen it. I work with other adults. I've seen it. You can change at any time in life. Anytime in life. If you're still here above ground and breathing and not pushing up daisies, then you got time to change. I just want to say that, humming with the worms. Work that in. No,
that's going to be your quote. Humming
right?
with the worms.
I'm going to write a book. You're not humming with the birds. But if you're, humming with the worms, it's just like if you're above ground, you're not done. If you're here, you're not done.
What is the one book you would advise women to read?
I read a few great books, but the one I love the most is Becoming the Proverbs 31 Woman. It's a great book by Donna Partow. It's an amazing book. It's a lot of writing again. Writing is very therapeutic, very powerful. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of task. But at the end of it, you come away with this really good notebook of information. And again, more cleansing. Life-changing book.
And what is the one thing that you can't miss doing every day?
Praying. Definitely praying.
Okay.
You have to, you definitely got to hit your knees,
Yeah.
And on your knees too. It's just deeper when you're on your knees.
Yeah.
It's a tribute to God. It's an honoring of God. Of course, all day long you pray in your car, your chair, you walk, but that initial early morning prayer on your knees.
Yeah.
And in the morning, how can you have your day if you don't?
Yeah.
How do you not even know what to do if you don't check in?
How does a listener get in touch with you? How can those people who want to grow from your wisdom find you?
Working on the Southern accent, so don't get in touch with me yet.
Right.
They can email me at sbd318@gmail.com. And only say
sbd318@gmail.com.
Yep. Only say email because I never pick up my phone.
Oh gosh, Siobhan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Yeah.
Just thank you.
Yeah, it's refreshing. Oh, I forgot where I see myself. Your marketing producer. I told you that before we started.
Siobhan Mattingly-Ceferelli. I like the whole name.
VP of marketing.
You want the title
or
too?
Executive producer. I don't know which one I want. I don't know.
You could be both. You could have a dual title.
That's what I want then.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I want.
Hopefully that'll happen soon.
You've been listening to the F50 Woman podcast. Join the F50 Woman movement and this diverse group of voices to help change the world one woman at a time. Why should you join at your age? Because we're not done yet.